The city of Berlin has a long and complex history. For many years, a great concrete wall divided it. This wall separated families and friends. It was a physical barrier, something you could see and touch. People on both sides dreamed of a day when it would fall. And in 1989, that day arrived. The Berlin Wall came down, and the city was reunited. It was a powerful symbol of freedom. People believed they were finally free from the prisons of the past. But sometimes, the most powerful prisons are the ones we cannot see. They are not made of stone or steel. They are made of something far more subtle. Here in Berlin, in the year 2026, a new story is unfolding. It is a story about a different kind of prison. This prison has no walls and no guards. It is a frequency prison. It is an invisible cage built from low-level energy signals. These signals are all around us, in the air we breathe. For years, they have quietly influenced how people think and feel. They can create feelings of fear, apathy, and division. Most people never knew this prison existed. They simply felt its effects, a quiet weight on their minds and spirits. But a small group of thinkers and scientists in Berlin began to understand. They saw the chains, and they decided it was time to break them. This is the story of BerlinNode. It is a tale of a city that once broke a physical wall and is now attempting to break an invisible one. It is a grand experiment, a bold attempt to free the human mind. The city, with its unique history of division and reunification, became the perfect place for this trial. It has always been a city of artists, rebels, and dreamers. These are the very people needed to challenge an idea as big as a frequency prison. They are not afraid to look at the world differently. They are not afraid to ask difficult questions. And they are not afraid to search for answers, even if those answers are hidden in plain sight. The journey to break these invisible chains is not a simple one. It requires new technology, brave volunteers, and a deep understanding of the human mind. It is a quiet revolution, happening not in the streets with loud protests, but in the hearts and minds of the city's inhabitants. We will explore how special centers across Berlin work together. We will look at the strange and wonderful technology they used. And we will witness the battle between two powerful ideas, one that seeks to awaken humanity, and another that wishes to keep it asleep. Berlin stands once again at a crossroads of history, a beacon of change in a complex world. To challenge the frequency prison, a network of special centers was created across Berlin. Each center had a unique purpose, like different organs in a living body. Together, they formed a powerful system for change. There were three main locations, the pillars of this entire operation. They were named the Kreuzberg Core, the Prenzlauer Berg Outpost, and the Teufelsberg Array. Each was chosen for its location and its unique energy. They were the heart, the voice, and the ears of the project. This structure allowed the team to work carefully and effectively, managing a very delicate process. The first, and perhaps most important, was the Kreuzberg Core. Located in the vibrant and artistic district of Kreuzberg, this was the central hub of the entire operation. It was the brain, where all the data was collected and analyzed. Here, scientists and technicians worked day and night, monitoring the city's frequencies. They were like doctors checking the pulse of Berlin. The building itself was an old, repurposed factory, filled with advanced computers and sensitive equipment. It was a place of intense focus and quiet determination, hidden away from the public eye, but connected to every part of the city. Next was the Prenzlauer Berg Outpost. This center was located in a busy, family-friendly neighborhood. Its role was very different. It was the public face of the project, the place where the team connected with the people of Berlin. Here, volunteers could come to learn about the project and participate in it. The outpost was designed to be a safe and welcoming space. It looked more like a modern community center or a cafe than a scientific lab. This was intentional. The goal was to make people feel comfortable and to build trust between the project leaders and the citizens they hoped to help. Finally, high on a man-made hill to the west of the city, stood the Teufelsberg Array. Teufelsberg, or Devil's Mountain, is a place with its own strange history. It is home to an abandoned American listening station from the Cold War. Its large white domes look like giant golf balls against the sky. This location was repurposed for the BerlinNode project. Its old listening equipment was updated to become a powerful broadcasting array. From this high point, the team could send out new, positive frequencies across the entire city. It was the powerful voice that would sing a new song for Berlin, a song of clarity and freedom. The Kreuzberg Core was the operational heart of the entire BerlinNode project. Tucked away in a former industrial building, its brick walls hid some of the most advanced biofeedback technology on the planet. This was where the raw data from the city was processed. Imagine a vast library of feelings and thoughts, all translated into numbers and graphs on glowing screens. The scientists here were the librarians, carefully reading and interpreting this complex information. Their job was to understand the exact nature of the frequency prison. They needed to map its structure before they could hope to dismantle it. Inside the core, there was an atmosphere of quiet concentration. The main room was filled with servers that hummed softly, their lights blinking in the dim light. This was the central nervous system of the project. It connected to sensors placed discreetly all over Berlin. These sensors measured the ambient electromagnetic fields in the city. But more importantly, the core was connected to the volunteers at the Prenzlauer Berg outpost. It received real-time biofeedback data from these individuals. This included their heart rates, their brainwave patterns, and even subtle changes in their emotional states. It was a deep and intimate connection. The team at Kreuzberg Core was made up of a diverse group of experts. There were data scientists, neurobiologists, physicists, and even sociologists. They worked together, each bringing their own unique perspective to the problem. Their primary task was to find the exact frequency of the suppressive signal, the carrier wave of the prison. They called this signal serpent twist. By analyzing the biofeedback from volunteers, they could see how this frequency affected human emotions. It often created feelings of low-level anxiety, mistrust, and mental fog. Identifying it was the first critical step toward creating a counter-frequency. The work was slow and meticulous. The team would spend weeks analyzing tiny fluctuations in the data. A small change in the city's mood after a sunny day, or a dip in collective energy during a transit strike, all provided clues. They were like detectives solving a massive, invisible crime. They created complex models of the city's emotional weather. These models showed how serpent twist grew stronger in some areas and weaker in others. This detailed map was essential. It would guide the Teufelsberg Array, telling it exactly where and how to broadcast the liberating counterfrequency, known as Frequency Zero. The Prenzlauer Berg outpost was the human element of the BerlinNode project. It was where the science of the Kreuzberg Core met the real lives of Berlin's citizens. Located on a friendly street lined with trees and cafes, the outpost was designed to be approachable and non-intimidating. Its large windows and open-plan interior invited people inside. The goal was to recruit volunteers who would become the project's living sensors. These brave individuals agreed to share their biological data to help map the effects of the frequency prison. The project could not succeed without their willing participation. When a volunteer arrived, they were greeted warmly and offered a cup of tea. The process was explained to them in simple, clear language. There were no secrets. They were told about the frequency prison and the goal of achieving a collective awakening. If they agreed to participate, they were fitted with a small wearable device called a biolocket. This device was designed to be comfortable and discreet. It continuously monitored their heart rate variability, skin temperature, and other stress indicators. This data was sent wirelessly and anonymously to the Kreuzberg Core for analysis. The outpost was also a place for community and support. It wasn't just a data collection point. The project leaders knew that the process of waking up could be confusing or even difficult for some people. As the counter-frequencies began to be broadcast, people might experience shifts in their perception and emotions. The outpost hosted regular workshops and discussion groups. Here, volunteers could share their experiences with each other and with trained counselors. They could talk about their dreams, their newfound clarity, or any feelings of disorientation. This support network was crucial for ensuring the well-being of every participant. Over time, the Prenzlauer Berg outpost became a vibrant community hub. It was a place where strangers became friends, united by a common purpose. People from all walks of life came together. Artists, teachers, shopkeepers, and students. They were the pioneers of this new inner world. Their courage to participate, to wear the bio-lockets, and to share their innermost feelings provided the essential data needed to break the prison. They were not just subjects in an experiment. They were active collaborators. The outpost was a testament to the idea that true change requires not just brilliant technology, but also a connected and supportive community. High above the Grunewald forest, the Teufelsberg Array stood as the project's most powerful tool. The abandoned Cold War listening station, with its iconic white domes, was given a new life. Its original purpose was to listen to secrets from the East. Now, its purpose was to broadcast a secret of its own, the secret of mental freedom. The location was perfect. Its height gave it a clear line of sight across the entire Berlin metropolitan area. From this vantage point, it could blanket the city with a new kind of signal, a signal designed not to control, but to liberate. Engineers worked for months to retrofit the old station. They replaced the outdated analog equipment with state-of-the-art digital transmitters. These new devices were capable of broadcasting on very specific and subtle frequencies. The challenge was to generate a signal that was powerful enough to counteract the serpent twist frequency, but gentle enough not to harm or overwhelm the city's population. It had to be like a whisper, not a shout. The signal, known as Frequency Zero, was designed to be a carrier wave for what the project called the Lyran narrative, a message of unity, clarity, and self-awareness. The activation of the Teufelsberg Array was done in careful, controlled phases. It was not like flipping a switch. The process was more like tuning a delicate instrument. Guided by the real-time data from the Kreuzberg core, the engineers would slowly increase the power of the broadcast. They targeted specific neighborhoods first, the ones where the serpent twist signal was strongest. They watched the biofeedback from the volunteers in those areas with intense focus. They looked for positive signs, a decrease in collective stress levels, an increase in heart rate coherence, and reports of clearer thinking from the volunteers at the Prenzlauer Berg outpost. The giant domes on Teufelsberg, once symbols of suspicion and division, were transformed into beacons of hope. They pulsed with an invisible energy, sending waves of harmony across the urban landscape. The signal itself was inaudible to the human ear, but many people would later report its effects. Some described a feeling of a fog lifting from their minds. Others spoke of a newfound sense of connection to the people around them. The Teufelsberg Array was the mighty shepherd's flute, playing a new song for the city, gently guiding its flock out of an invisible valley of confusion and into the clear light of awareness. At the very center of the BerlinNode project was a strange and beautiful piece of technology known as the Felis 01 protocol. The name Felis comes from the Latin word for cat, and this was no accident. The inventors of this system were inspired by the unique qualities of felines. Cats, they observed, seem to exist in a state of relaxed awareness. They are masters of the present moment. They can be perfectly still, yet ready to spring into action. The team wanted to replicate this state of being, this feline frequency, and share it with the human population. The protocol worked by combining three different elements. The first was the biofeedback from the human volunteers, collected via the bio-lockets. This gave the system a real-time understanding of the city's emotional state. The second element was a complex algorithm that modeled the purr of a cat. A cat's purr is not just a sound, it is a vibration. It occurs at a frequency between 25 and 150 Hz, a range that has been shown to promote healing and reduce stress. The Fehler der 01 algorithm translated this healing vibration into a digital signal. It was a mathematical representation of calm and contentment. The third and most unusual element involved actual cats. In a special quiet chamber within the Kreuzberg core, a small group of rescue cats lived in a comfortable, enriched environment. These cats were fitted with harmless sensors that monitored their states of relaxation and well-being. When these cats were deeply relaxed or purring contentedly, their biological signals were captured. This organic, living data was then used to modulate the digital purr algorithm. It added a natural, unpredictable, and living quality to the signal. It ensured the broadcast was not just a sterile, machine-made frequency, but something more organic and alive. This final combined signal was what the project called Frequency Zero. It was a symphony of human biofeedback, mathematical purring, and the real-time contentment of living cats. This signal was then sent from the Kreuzberg core to the Teufelsberg array to be broadcast across the city. The idea was elegantly simple, to use a frequency of calm to counteract a frequency of anxiety. The Fehler der 01 protocol was a bridge between nature and technology, a testament to the idea that sometimes the most advanced solutions can be inspired by the simplest and most gentle of creatures. The struggle for the mind of Berlin was not just a technical battle of frequencies. It was a battle of stories, of two opposing narratives for the future of humanity. On one side was the Lyran narrative, the story promoted by the BerlinNode project. This narrative was one of awakening and empowerment. It was named after the Lyra constellation, often associated in myth with harmony and creativity. The Lyran narrative proposed that humanity was ready to evolve. It suggested that people could break free from old patterns of fear and division and enter a new era of collective consciousness and cooperation. The Lyran narrative was embedded within Frequency Zero. It was not a spoken message, but an energetic one. It was designed to encourage feelings of empathy, clarity, and connection. People who were sensitive to this frequency reported feeling more optimistic. They found it easier to understand others and to communicate peacefully. They felt a sense of belonging to something larger than themselves. The goal of the BerlinNode project was to make this narrative the dominant story in the city. They believed that if people could feel this connection, they would naturally begin to build a better, more harmonious world together. On the other side was the opposing force, which the project team called Serpent Twist. This was the name they gave to the low-level suppressive frequency that had blanketed the city for years. The name was chosen to represent ideas of deception and control. The Serpent Twist narrative was one of fear, separation, and apathy. It was a story that kept people focused on their own individual survival, making them suspicious of their neighbors and distrustful of authority. It encouraged a state of low-level anxiety, a mental fog that made critical thinking and deep connection very difficult. The source of Serpent Twist was unknown. Some on the team believed it was an unintentional byproduct of modern technology. Others suspected it was being broadcast deliberately by a hidden group that wished to maintain control over the population. This group, they theorized, benefited from a society that was easy to manipulate. An anxious and divided population is less likely to question authority or demand change. The battle in Berlin was therefore a symbolic one. It was a test to see if a story of hope and unity could overcome a story of fear and control. The city itself became the stage for this epic, invisible drama. The BerlinNode operation unfolded in 3 distinct phases, each carefully documented in the project's operational log. Phase 1, which began on October 1st, 2025, was the baseline phase. For 1 month, the system only listened. The Teufelsberg array was silent. The Kreuzberg core focused entirely on collecting data from the city-wide sensors and the first group of 500 volunteers from the Prenzlauer Berg outpost. The log from this period shows a city under the influence of serpent twist. Data logs consistently reported high levels of social anxiety, low community engagement metrics, and fragmented brainwave patterns among volunteers, especially during morning and evening commutes. Phase 2, the Gentle Whisper, began on November 1st, 2025. The Teufelsberg array was activated for the first time, broadcasting frequency 0 at just 10% of its total capacity. The signal was focused on the districts of Kreuzberg and Prenzlauer Berg, where the volunteer density was highest. The operational log from this phase shows immediate, though subtle, changes. Within the first week, the Kreuzberg core registered a 15% decrease in the average stress indicators from the biolockets in the target area. Log entry, November 8, 2025, reads: marked increase in heart rate coherence reported across 60% of Prenzlauer Berg volunteers. Corresponds with anecdotal reports of unusual optimism from the outpost discussion groups. Phase 3, the Rising Chorus, was initiated on December 15th, just before the holidays. The power of the Teufelsberg array was gradually increased to 75%, and its broadcast field was expanded to cover the entire city. The effects became much more pronounced. The operational log from January 2026 is filled with remarkable data. Public transit authorities reported a 30% drop in passenger disputes. Citywide energy consumption showed a more stable, less erratic pattern. Most importantly, the Kreuzberg core's analysis showed that the serpent twist frequency was being effectively neutralized, breaking apart like a rope under strain. The Lyran narrative was becoming the dominant signal. The results were astonishing. The final log entry for the main operational period, dated January 15, 2026, summarizes the success. It notes a 70% citywide reduction in the baseline anxiety markers established in Phase 1. It also includes reports from the Prenzlauer Berg outpost describing a blossoming of creativity. Volunteers reported starting new art projects, forming community gardens, and engaging in spontaneous acts of kindness. The city felt different. The air seemed clearer. The people seemed friendlier. The operational log provided the hard data, but the true story was written on the faces of the people of Berlin. The frequency prison was broken. The BerlinNode project stands as a remarkable chapter in the city's ongoing story of liberation. Just as it once tore down a wall of concrete, Berlin has now shown the world how to dismantle an invisible wall of frequency. The city proved to be the perfect laboratory for such a bold experiment. Its history of division and reunification gave its people a unique understanding of freedom. They know what it means to live in a divided world, and they have a deep, collective desire for unity. This, combined with the city's vibrant culture of skepticism and creativity, created fertile ground for a revolution of the mind. The success of the project was a result of the careful synergy between its 3 pillars. The Kreuzberg core provided the scientific mind, the Prenzlauer Berg outpost provided the human heart, and the Teufelsberg array provided the powerful voice. This combination of high technology and deep humanity was the key. The strange and wonderful Felis 01 protocol, inspired by the simple wisdom of a cat's purr, shows that solutions to our biggest problems can come from unexpected places. It reminds us to listen not only to our machines, but also to the quiet rhythms of the natural world around us. The experiment has left a lasting impact on Berlin. Today, on January 16, 2026, the city feels alive in a new way. There is a palpable sense of calm and clarity in the air. Strangers are more likely to smile at one another. The constant, low-level hum of anxiety has been replaced by a quiet confidence. The Lyran narrative of connection has taken root. Of course, the work is not over. The serpent twist frequency may be a persistent part of our technological world, and maintaining this newfound clarity will require ongoing vigilance. But a powerful precedent has been set. The cage has been opened. Berlin now serves as a beacon for other cities around the globe. It is a living example of what is possible when we dare to question the very nature of our reality. The story of BerlinNode is a story of hope. It suggests that we are not passive victims of our environment. We have the power to change not only our cities, but also our own consciousness. By blending courage, community, and technology, we can tune our world to a different frequency. We can choose a new narrative. Berlin, the city of constant change, has once again shown us the way forward into a future that is brighter, clearer, and more connected for all.